still wiping steak juice from his chin when he said it. We all know she's smart in her own way, but let's be honest, business just isn't her lane. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel, but it was loud enough to stain. Someone raised a wine glass. Someone else nodded with that knowing look people wear when they think you don't get the joke. But she did. She got every syllable, every sideways glance, every smug sip of Cabernet from people who'd never seen her ideas, only her apron. She had spent the morning prepping for this dinner like it was a board meeting. Salad tossed, table set, outfit ironed. It was the first night in months where she had the courage to share it, the idea that had been quietly living inside her notes app and her browser history, a small digital business, nothing fancy, just a place to start, a way to finally step out of his shadow. She had rehearsed the pitch in her head all week, even printed out a mock-up, slides and numbers and sketches. But before she could finish the first sentence, he was already shaking his head, slicing through the conversation like he always did. Babe, come on. It's sweet, really, but that kind of thing takes a certain mindset, strategy, pressure, and I just don't think that's you. He didn't look at her when he said it. He looked at the guests for approval, and he got it. She smiled like someone who forgot how. One of the wives patted her hand and said, I tried to do the Etsy thing once. It's cute, but it's a lot. Someone else added, running a business is like a second marriage. You have to be obsessed. She nodded, sipped her water, swallowed the rest. But later, when the guests were gone and the dishwasher was humming low, she sat at the kitchen island with her laptop glowing in the dark. She didn't cry. She opened a new document, titled it Business Plan, and beneath it wrote the date. Because someday, someone would ask when it all started. And she would point to this moment, the moment they laughed. She woke up before the alarm, not for him, not for the house, for herself. Before the sun, before the day had a name, before his voice filled the kitchen with commentary about the news or his aching back or which coworker had dropped the ball again. She slid quietly out of bed, careful not to wake him, and padded barefoot to the corner of the guest room where she kept her second life. A folding table, a mug of cold tea from the night before, a notebook thick with scribbles and sticky notes, and a laptop that carried her entire ambition between its hinges. It started small, a Shopify template, a few branding mood boards, YouTube tutorials running at double speed, voices teaching her about conversion rates and drop shipping and how to get suppliers to take you seriously when your name is on nothing yet. She took notes in the margins, tested fonts until her eyes blurred, listened to podcasts while folding laundry, learned about SEO while cooking dinner, answered customer service emails while he ranted about layoffs over dessert. He never noticed, never asked why her screen stayed open past midnight, why she bought fewer dresses but kept ordering sample fabrics and swatches, why the printer suddenly ran out of ink every other week. She didn't lie. She just didn't explain. There's a difference. At night, after the dishes and the chores and the silence, she'd sneak moments for herself. Joined private Facebook groups where women talked numbers with fire in their bellies, subscribed to newsletters with subject lines like how I made 6 figures off one email campaign. She bookmarked every one. There was one woman in particular, a mentor she found on TikTok of all places. She spoke in plain language, said things like, start ugly, just start, and you don't need a co-founder, you need conviction. She played those clips like gospel. The first sale came in on a Tuesday morning, a single ring, $23. She stared at the screen for a full minute before it registered. Someone had clicked add to cart. Someone had read her words, scrolled her photos, entered their card info, and chosen her. She didn't scream, didn't run into the bedroom and announce it with joy. She just smiled, quiet, fierce. By the end of the week, there were 3 more orders. By the end of the month, a dozen, all organic, all found by people she'd never met, no ads, no fluff. Just her, working from the corner of a room he never entered. Every time he said, you wouldn't understand how pressure works, she nodded. Every time he joked, running a business is a war zone, she agreed. But inside, she was already marching. She had already built the first outpost. And she hadn't even fired a shot. She was folding a pile of shirts on the couch when the notification buzzed on her phone. buried beneath a half-read book and the sketch pad she no longer pretended was just for doodling. He was pacing the living room like a man running from a fire only he could see, muttering about office politics and passive-aggressive emails, dragging his fingers through his hair and blaming a middle manager named Scott for the company's inevitable collapse. She nodded occasionally, inserting small reassurances when the pauses felt too long, murmuring things like, "That sounds frustrating," and "You've done everything you could," while her thumb tapped the corner of her phone and refreshed the dashboard again and again. The numbers had started creeping up slowly at first, almost shy in the way growth sometimes begins when no one is watching. At first, it was 1 order a week, then 2, then a quiet stretch with nothing, and then 5 in a single weekend, all from different cities. She had watched with cautious disbelief, then steady resolve, as returning customers brought friends and tagged her posts, as emails from strangers started calling her by name like she'd always been part of their routine, like her brand had always belonged in their lives. She answered every message herself, wrote every thank you note by hand, slipped tiny folded cards into each package with quotes about power and quiet women and the storms they don't warn you about. She reinvested everything, didn't touch a cent. She bought better packaging, upgraded her domain, hired a part-time virtual assistant with soft hands and sharper instincts, and tested new products she only released once they passed her own absurdly high standard. She worked through migraines and birthdays and late-night kitchen cleanups, never skipping a beat. And all the while, she let him believe she was still just exploring, just dabbling, just playing business while he played real stress. He never asked how it was going, not once. That night, while he listed off the people getting laid off that week and how he was probably next because no one in that office respects tenure, she slipped her hand beneath the book and unlocked her phone. The dashboard loaded slowly. It always did right before the numbers jumped. 10,000. In 1 month, her breath caught. Not sharply, just enough. $10,000. Clean, after shipping, after cost, profit. It wasn't just traction. It wasn't just a fluke. It was real. She looked at him, still pacing, still furious about emails and disrespect and some meeting that should have been an email. He hadn't noticed she'd stopped folding the shirts. He hadn't looked at her in 30 minutes, and she realized, in that moment, that he might never ask, might never know, might never be part of this story beyond the opening chapter he unknowingly wrote when he laughed across the dinner table and told her she wasn't made for this world. She didn't correct him. She just refreshed the dashboard one more time, smiled to herself, and went back to folding. The silence in the kitchen the day he came home was different. It wasn't the usual after-work exhaustion or the moody sulk he wore when traffic had been bad or his coffee had gone cold too quickly. This silence sat heavy in the room like thick air before a storm, and when she looked up from her laptop, he was standing in the doorway with a grocery bag still in one hand and his tie half untied, eyes not angry but hollow, like someone had taken the script of his life and erased the last chapter. He dropped the bag on the counter a little too hard. A box of cereal tumbled out and bounced once before falling flat on the tile. He didn't pick it up. "They let me go," he said. She didn't move, just closed her laptop softly and stood, her hand still warm from the keyboard. He walked past her without looking, poured a glass of water, and downed it in one breath like it would fix something. She waited, gave him space. He finally leaned against the counter and looked at her like she was supposed to say something more profound than "I'm sorry." "I gave them 12 years, he said, voice tight, "and they cut me like I was a line item." She nodded, gently. "That's awful." He kept talking, about betrayal, about the economy, about loyalty being a joke. She listened, asked if he wanted to talk more, if he needed space, if she could make dinner, or if he wanted to order something. He waved her off, said he didn't need help. Later that night, he wandered into the living room and found her working again. Her laptop was open, the glow reflecting off her glasses. Her notes were spread across the couch in neat piles. Her tea had gone cold beside her elbow. He watched her for a moment, arms crossed, before saying it. "You wouldn't understand what it's like to carry a household." She paused mid-keystroke, looked up. Not surprised, just still. He said it like he meant it, like the years she spent managing every bill, every meal, every emotional cleanup after his long days didn't count. Like every hour she worked before sunrise and every sale she answered between diaper changes was invisible. Like support was only valuable when it wore a suit and carried a company badge. She didn't argue. She nodded slowly. Said, okay. When he went to bed, she waited for the hallway light to turn off. Then she opened her ad dashboard, adjusted the budget sliders, typed in the new numbers with fingers that didn't shake. She doubled the spend. Launched 3 new campaigns. Retargeted her best-selling product. Scheduled a newsletter to go out in the morning. Then she leaned back on the couch, alone in the glow of the screen, and whispered something to herself under her breath. Not petty, not cruel, just clear. He didn't carry the household. She did, and now she was scaling it. The package on the front porch was nothing unusual at first, just a matte black box with clean edges, branded tape wrapping around the sides, and a subtle logo printed near the corner. He picked it up absently on the way back from checking the mailbox, already juggling a stack of unopened bills and a coupon book neither of them would ever use. He didn't look at the logo, not really. Not until he set it on the kitchen counter and noticed the initials. He stared at it for a second, longer than normal, tilted his head. He'd seen that logo before, on her laptop screen, in her browser tabs, on a package she once told him was just a gift for a friend. He peeled the tape back, slow at first, then quicker, like the answers might be inside if he just opened it fast enough. The box was lined in gold tissue. Beneath it sat a curated gift set, handcrafted items, product cards, a thank you envelope, all carefully arranged, branded, polished. He opened the card last. Thank you for being part of something built with intention. We're not just a brand, we're a movement. His name wasn't on it, but her initials were. Full name, CEO title. He blinked, read it again, then opened her laptop. It wasn't locked. He scrolled past her email, past the open browser tabs, landed on the analytics dashboard, still logged in, revenue charts, sales heat maps, a list of brand sponsors. His eyes flicked down the numbers, growing colder with each line. She walked into the room carrying a cup of coffee and froze. He looked up. What the hell is this? Her voice was calm. It's mine. You run this? She nodded. I built it. How long? A year. He laughed, but it wasn't humor, more of a crack in the wall. You've had this going while we what? You just never thought to tell me? I tried, she said. You didn't want to hear it. He opened a tab she hadn't closed. LLC paperwork, dated, signed, official, her name in bold, her name alone. He stared at it, then back at her. You made all this without me. Yes, she said. She pulled a folder from the kitchen drawer and placed it on the table between them. Inside were revenue projections, Quone sales growth, media kits, a sponsorship deal from a company he once said was too big for startups. He flipped through the pages in silence, each one pressed heavier than the last. She watched him closely, waited for the last sheet to land. It was a job posting. Marketing director, remote, salary listed in numbers that made his jaw tighten. He read the description, then looked back at her. She didn't gloat, didn't blink. I need someone to fill the position, she said softly. Thought you might know the role. He didn't speak, but the silence said everything. The email came in late, a formal subject line, attached resume, no message in the body beyond a single sentence. Please consider me for the open role. It was signed with his full name. The same name that used to appear on their shared bank account, on the lease, on every tax return where she filed under spouse. Now it looked unfamiliar, almost sterile. She read it once, then again, not because she needed to, just to feel the strangeness of it. He had formatted it like he would for any company. No greeting, no context, just the facts. Years of experience, management skills, oversaw campaigns, led a team. Numbers that once sounded impressive, now reduced to bullet points on a clean white page. She forwarded it to her head of HR with a short note. Decline respectfully, thank him for applying. They sent a canned response the next day. It was polite, clear, professional, a message she had helped draft for other candidates in the past, the kind that stings without ever raising its voice. He didn't reply. He didn't bring it up at dinner, or over coffee, or in the hallway when they passed each other like strangers who used to know the same language. He stayed quiet, moved a little slower around the house, closed doors with more care. She didn't press, she didn't explain, because by then, it was already done. The business was hers. Fully, legally, publicly. The name he once smirked at was now trademarked. The brand he called a cute side hustle was being pitched in rooms he'd only read about. Investors returned her calls. Partners asked her to lead panels. Women who looked like her sent DMs that said, "Thank you for proving it's possible." She hired a team of 5, then 10, rented a workspace 2 neighborhoods over, bright windows, exposed brick, enough room for more. And when the first press piece won a local feature in the business section, front page above the fold, he walked in that morning with the paper already folded under his arm. He didn't hand it to her, just left it on the counter beside her tea and left the house without a word. She didn't read it right away. She didn't need to, because she hadn't built any of this to prove him wrong. She hadn't worked through exhaustion and silence and dismissal just to say, "I told you so." She did it because she knew. From the first spark of the idea to the first product sold, from the nights he called it nonsense to the mornings she built anyway, she knew. She was always right about herself. Now she had proof. Now she had peace. And most importantly, now she had options, ones that didn't include waiting for someone else to see her.